All right, welcome back to In the Kitchen with B2B Leads. Today we've got an exciting episode. We're going to be talking about the perfect business-to-business sales process. So as always, I'm excited to share and I'll see you in just a moment. All right, today we're talking all about the perfect business-to-business sales process. So my name is Ryan Caswell. I'm the Master Chef here at b2bleads.com. And let's get straight into it. So when I'm talking about the perfect business-to-business sales process, what I'm really referring to is the entire process through to from finding a cold prospect on LinkedIn. I'm generally talking about LinkedIn, but it could be cold calling, it could be via email, but using some form of outbound lead generation to reach out to someone, to start a conversation, and taking that all the way through to a sale. Now, the perfect process here, and process, being an engineer by background, is one of my favorite things to talk about, and a lot of people really struggle with because they find it mind-numbingly boring. But as an engineer, I love to build processes and optimize and tweak. So the first most important thing you need to have with your process is it exists. And this might sound absolutely ridiculous, but most people don't actually have established processes. They tend to do things willy-nilly here and there, and there's no actual discernible process that actually exists, and they wonder why they don't get results. So the first thing you actually need to do to improve your process is actually have a process. And a process needs to be, I think by its very nature, it is consistent. So process needs to be consistent. It needs to be repeatable so that you can actually build off it. You can actually, and that brings me to my next point, measure it. Because it's impossible to have a process and improve upon that process if you can't, in fact, actually measure it. So, I mean, you can't actually really improve anything without measuring it, because there's no basis with which to base anything off of, or any way to know whether we've improved or actually gotten worse unless we're measuring those improvements and measuring those results. So the process, obviously, you need to actually start building your processes. They need to be consistent. So, you don't send one message to one person, a completely different message to another person. When you get on a sales call, you don't talk about one thing one day, another thing another day. There needs to be some sort of discernible rules and process around, well, yeah, like I said, it's pretty, they go hand in hand. A process is something that is consistent and rule driven. We need a way to, in fact, measure it so that we can improve upon it. And really, really, really important, and this is where a lot of people, I guess, get lost when it comes to digital marketing, is it needs to be leveraged. It needs to be very leveraged. So a lot of digital marketers can tell you processes, and then one business will say, oh, this works, or another one will say this doesn't work. Ultimately, if you've heard about it and someone says it works, but it really just comes down to how leveraged it is. Can you do something efficiently enough that it drives a result? So for example, someone will say content marketing works, and they pump out, 10 pieces of content in 10 minutes, and they schedule that out for the next few weeks. And they might get, as an example, one client out of it. The other guy says, all right, I'll try it. And he spends, a whole week developing one piece of content. And he may, using that content, convert more people. It may be higher quality content, but the amount of effort he has to go into it he's not able to maintain it. And it doesn't outweigh the actual cost of the actual sale that he generates. So what I tell people with lead generation, it's not always about having the absolute best, being the best, or anything like that. It's really just a matter of balancing your inputs and your outputs. Are you being efficient enough that you can generate leads, and that is at a lower cost than your actual sale? It's And it ranges. It depends on your actual client, how much you're going to make from that client. If it's a lower value client, in terms of the actual return you get, you need to be far more efficient and get a higher volume up. And then obviously if they're very high value clients, you can afford to lower your volume, but you may need to increase what it takes to actually convert that person, have a higher nurturing process. But it just depends on the actual client. So whatever it is, it needs to be, of course, leveraged so that you're not putting all this effort into something that doesn't actually pay off. So in terms of building a process that is leveraged, so we look at how to generate a lead on, let's say, LinkedIn. You're reaching out, you're finding someone who doesn't know you. You're reaching out to engage, nurture, and I guess the word would be close, have a sales call and close that sale. So you can go on LinkedIn and you can build your audience on LinkedIn, find your ideal clients, and then you can reach out one by one to try and start a conversation with those people. Once those people have actually replied, you can then engage with those people. You can reply however you want to do it, and nurture those relationships through to a phone call. And then you have a phone call, and then eventually that closes and becomes a sale. One way to do this efficiently is say, okay, well, is this a defined process? Is this easy and this is in terms of leveraging what we do, there's a bit of a hierarchy. And what we always want to do is, first of all, in terms of building efficient processes, we want to eliminate. If something doesn't add value, we want to get rid of it. There's no point having it there. It just costs us money and effort to have a process that doesn't add value. So the hierarchy of things we want to do with our processes is get rid of them if we don't need them. Eliminate, automate, and delegate. So if we don't need it, get rid of it. If we can't get rid of it, can we automate it? And automation, when I say automate and when I say delegate, I mean, can we automate it for less cost than what we want our time to be worth? So if we want to make $200 an hour, then can we automate it at a lower cost than that? And so this is where you really need to understand what you want your time to be worth, because that's really going to drive the decisions you make when it comes to building processes, to hiring, and to growing your business. Because you can't just keep doing things and expect to grow, because you're going to hit a ceiling. You need to define what your time needs to be worth and then start building processes and looking at your business like a machine in order to facilitate that. So, can we eliminate it? Can we automate it? Can we delegate it? And last resort is, do we have to actually get involved? So, engagement, can we automate it? Well, can we eliminate it? Not really, we need it. Can we automate it? Yeah, we can. We can also delegate it, but you can quite easily automate these things. So it's such a defined process. You know, this is my exact audience. This is what I want to say to them. I may as well automate it. Otherwise, I'm going to lose any sort of what's the word, competitive edge I have over my competitors and over my own, just having an efficient business. So yes, we can automate it. And then nurturing. So the nurturing process, once a conversation actually starts, it's quite hard to automate because we're having a real conversation with a real person. But there are huge amounts of things involved with this that can be automated. You know, it's looking up who's actually connected with us, understanding who's engaged, keeping track of all these things. These are all things that can be automated, so that the only manual thing you need to do, the only manual part of that process, is the one that absolutely requires you. And we can also really define how we reply, because we start to see there's a pattern in how people engage. So we can build scripts that are not necessarily exact, but gives us a jumping off point on how to nurture. And then this part can actually be delegated once it's defined and a process is driven. So we can't automate that, but we can delegate it to the right person, or we can manage it ourselves. It just depends, like I said, what you want your time to be worth. And then the closing. Obviously, we're having sales calls with people or moving through that sales process. Can we eliminate it? Well, some people can eliminate it. That's obviously the ultimate goal, is having an automated sales process. I mean, e-commerce, you go online, you don't need to actually have a human being talk to them or walk them through or try on clothes. It can, in fact, be eliminated, but not always initially, and it's not always cost effective enough for small businesses to do. So can we automate it? Well, sorry, you can't eliminate it, you can automate it. Yeah, you can automate it, but it can be quite difficult for small businesses initially to automate that sales process. It requires an enormous amount of trust building content before you can generally do that. Can you delegate it? Yeah, you can delegate it to sales reps. So that's absolutely something you can do. Or if you're a new business, you probably want to hold on to that sales process pretty closely. And like I said, you want to actually build a process, build a series of questions or points that you need to cover on your sales meeting, so you start to understand what does work and what doesn't. Build a consistent process, measure what your conversion rate is, and start to understand, okay, what's working well and what doesn't, and test and try different things. Testing costs money, because sometimes when you test things, it fails, but it's super important. And you know, if it was easy, everyone would be multimillionaires. But it's the people who put the effort into this and understand what it's worth to test and experiment, to build processes, that do very well. So that's it for today. As you can probably tell, I get quite excited when it comes to process. I hope that's been helpful. As always, you can learn more at b2bleads.com. I'm Ryan Caswell, and have a great day. Cheers. Hey, I hope that was helpful. If you're looking to learn more about business, lead gen, marketing, and sales strategy, there should be another video on the right here, plenty more on the channel. And as always, have a great day. Thanks.